Hey everyone, today is Tuesday. I have to look at the date because I never know. It is Tuesday, February 23rd. I am Teresa Lo. You are watching Talk with T.LO. Today we have the hilarious Mudit Verma. He is a comedian and he's located on the East Coast. He's joining us from the Washington, D.C. metro area. So we're going to wait for him to enter the room. Hey Mudit.
Hi, Teresa.
How is it going?
It's going well. How are you doing?
I am good. I am good. So I always start the show asking this one question: what is new with you?
What's new with me? I started two new jobs recently, and
Okay,
they're
what are they?
both medical writing jobs. So shout out to your writing workshop that really helped push me with like the job hunt. And yeah, so I've been super busy and learning a lot with these two new jobs. So
Okay, I'm so glad you shouted out my class because I was gonna ask you if the class helped you. So like, what happened? Like, tell it all. I love this story so much.
yeah, definitely. I think like big picture wise, that was like November of last year, and I was like applying to jobs very passively. My first day job was a medical writer role, which is a very technical thing. I graduated from pharmacy school, but I didn't want to be a regular pharmacist, so I went into medical writing, and essentially I was just like spending too many months just not being employed, just kind of living at home. And I think your workshop, it was that Saturday during the Boston Comedy Festival. Yeah, your workshop really just amped me up to really, dive into these applications and like work more like effectively on them. And I think like I've had a more like refreshed attitude on it. Like even though my new jobs are very technical, I think I'm able to see how my current like training can translate into more creative writing down the road. So yeah.
That is so cool. And also to the crowd, you guys are being kind of silent, but I see that you guys are here. This is not a plant. I didn't know that Mudit would say such good things about my workshop, but like, I am just like so pleased. Like, I'm so happy that like, things worked out for you. Cause yeah, whenever I do those workshops, I try to tell people where I'm like, the real money is in the non-glamour,
Mhm.
and it's like when you do things that are non-glamorous but technically like easy to you but not easy to someone else, is like you can
Right.
kind of set yourself up to do the creative stuff on the side.
And that's what connected, like that's what drew the connection from like the current non-glamorous roles to more glamorous roles down the road. So yeah.
Yeah, because I remember like, so I moved out to LA like 2007 or something like that. And I was always pursuing glamorous stuff. And it's like they always paid nothing. And then I remember I would meet people and they were like kind of like D-list celebrity types, but let's say they had a credit that sounded glamorous. But then they would be like, work for me for free. And like, I was kind of like, should I? And what's funny is like over a decade has passed since those times. And those people are in the same spot as me or like worse, where I was like, why was I working? Why would I have worked for them for free? It made no sense,
Mm.
you know? And then it's almost like people who can pay you will pay you. So it's a little
Yeah.
bit like, I'll take the money. It's like,
Yeah.
I'll bet on myself and take the money.
Mhm.
Okay, so very cool. So are they full-time jobs? Are they freelance or?
Yeah, so they're contract positions with full-time hours, both of them. So I'm like super busy. Like I log 40 hours on each of them, but you
Oh,
won't see the word like full-time in the contract because they're contract positions.
yeah.
So yeah, it's a start. It's a
But
step
that
in the right
is very, I'm like just so happy. I like can't even
direction.
like stop smiling. I'm like really happy for you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So for this show, we also talk a lot about people's relationships. So Mudit, what is your relationship status?
I am single.
Okay, cool. So I am single as well. So let's talk about the single life. Are you on dating apps?
I'm the only dating app I'm on is like the Facebook dating feature within the Facebook app, but
Hey.
no other dating apps. So
Oh wow. Also, Michael Damian is giving you a shout out. You know Michael. So
what's up, Michael? Yeah.
he's saying, hell yeah, it's a Mudit episode. So hey Michael, thanks for tuning in. But okay, so tell me about this Facebook dating, because I met this guy and he told me he did Facebook dating and he kind of showed me who he was matching with, but he said it was too weird because they were showing him people he knew, and like
Mm.
instead of a friend, it just felt too like intrusive. What are your thoughts on it? Because I've never done it.
Yeah, thankfully I haven't had too much of that particular issue. I mean, there are mutual friends, but maybe my app is like treating me well with the algorithm where it's like it's not too close to home type of thing. I really like it just because it's I don't have to download another app and it's completely free. Uh, and I feel like that it won't be that way for long. Like I feel like I'm on it for as like I feel like at some point it'll start being this monetized thing. So I feel kind of lucky in that way. And so I've also lost faith in the paid dating apps. I don't know, I feel kind of burnt out broadly from those. So yeah.
Because I want to ask you about two things. So the first thing is, have you met anyone from Facebook?
I have. It was I met this nurse who's a few years older than me, and I met her. It was either late 2019 or super early 2020, like before the pandemic hit.
Okay.
And I was super duper in between jobs, which was the same in between jobs era that like persisted to late last November when I took your class. And it was a good time, but like we decided to be friends because like I mean I didn't have like my foundation like in life. Like I didn't have a day job and didn't know what I was doing. I was like blindly going to comedy open mics just as like a coping mechanism, but that was it. So yeah, I mean, it's nice. I made a new friend and she's a really good friend to this day. So yeah.
So, okay, that's an interesting thing that you said too, because there's this book that I love. Steve Harvey wrote it, called Think Like a Man. And he talks about the few things that like men want to do when they really want to be with a woman. And one of them is provide. And he was basically saying if a man isn't to the point where he wants to provide or is providing, it's like not a relationship. And it kind of sounds like you were the same way, where you're like, I'm not in a place to date. And so you're like, I'll hold off on this, right?
Yeah.
But like now that you're kind of in a place where you want to be, would you like go back and try to rekindle that romance, or is it now just too much in the friend zone?
That particular connection, I think is not only in the friend zone, but because she's a nurse, like we actually talk about stuff that like my current jobs are like medical devices and maintaining their regulatory approval. And so like we actually talk about kind of the pandemic. So but it's like it's a friend zone that I'm very happy to be in with that particular case. So
You know,
yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that, because I think about that too. Like, so when I tend to meet people, it doesn't work out, I just ghost them, which I guess is kind of wrong. But like, I don't continue like a friendship thing. But I'm kind of wondering, it's like, is that acceptable? Like, do people actually are cool with meeting new friends off that and not trying to like hook up kind of thing? Like,
Right. I think that if we had this conversation when I was in my early 20s, I would have been very insecure because I had like very, very few experiences in relationships and like in hooking up
yeah.
and any kind of intimacy really. And so uh, that frame of mind in my early 20s and late teens would be this like as if I lost or I'm less than.
Mhm.
Everybody. But after having gone through uh, those types of experiences and a very like solid relationship during pharmacy school specifically, which is after college, I don't feel that insecurity anymore. So I'm like more leveled now.
That makes sense. That makes sense. How many other people have you met off the Facebook app?
Um, I've no one else in person, largely because of the pandemic. I mean, I've had okay like conversations um that haven't lasted too long. It was only the one that I mentioned earlier that really sort of something came out of it.
Mhm.
And I think that kind of speaks to like I just don't I think there's like a statistic that like Asian men are one of the couple demographics that don't find much success on dating apps. So
Oh,
I,
they
I
do.
just I just feel that like it's just it's not really for me, and it doesn't I just don't see much success. But with the Facebook thing, it's it's not taking up any more like memory on my phone, and it's very quick and kind of push some buttons and yeah.
Yeah. You know what's interesting about what you're saying though about the Asian man status because you know there are studies about that, but I also kind of wonder in general if just like apps make everybody flaky, where it's like very few people actually meet up and something successful happens from it. Because it's like I'll do the same thing. Well, I'll chat with people, and then if it gets boring, I just completely disappear, and like I don't want to meet. I think at this point, like I've been single for 3 weeks, I guess, basically all of February. And then I just chatted with people. And then I always flake when it gets to the point of about to meet. Like, I don't know if there's something in me where I'm like, I don't want to do it. Like, I just feel like it's like a waste of time. Like, there's this one guy, I met him off Tinder, and I haven't been on Tinder in a really long time. I've been on the more like, not wholesome apps, but like a Hinge or something where that one is like, they try to date you, right? So I finally was like, I'm going to do Tinder because I pretty much went through all the people on Hinge. And on Tinder, the guy, as we got to the point where he asked me out, he asked me to go to his house to get a drink. I was like, ew. I was like, this was too much. But then I was like, oh, I'm on Tinder. And I was kind of stupid. I was like, oh, this is what the app, I guess, is. And so I just kind of like disappeared off that. But I was kind of like, I don't know. Like, have you been on Tinder? Because I know people who have actually met relationships off Tinder. Have you tried Tinder?
I have had such, I don't think I've had any success whatsoever. Like no dates, no meetups through Tinder. I think the one in 2014, I was a senior in college. I matched with someone I already knew, and that matching on Tinder was something that kind of helped reaffirm the the mutual attraction. But this was this was not a woman that I met like sort of purely through Tinder. So I've really just not had success, and it's not the worst thing if anyone's getting sad out there. Like it's like
but what you're saying is completely normal, because like everyone I talk to who comes on the show who is single, no one has a really that great of experiences on apps. So it's like what you're saying is not strange. You know what I mean? It's like completely normal. Yeah, because like I've been trying to do some of the niche dating apps. Like, so I was like, I think I told you once in like an open mic where I was like, oh, I was on a BDSM dating app. And then my sister's like, you're meeting psychos. Stop being on that app. So I moved away from that. And then I have this friend, she's also a comic, and she's a cougar. She's like in her 50s and she dates very, very young. And she's like, you should try Cougar Life. And so I made an account on Cougar Life, and I just felt like it was like Tinder, but like grosser. I was like, I gotta get off this app as well. And so it was kind of like the traditional apps, I was kind of overwhelmed by the amount of people. And then the niche apps, the people were also crazy, where I was kind of like, oh, this is not working either one. So I'm kind of in that weird realm as well, where I'm like, it's not working. And I don't know what to do in a pandemic. Like, I don't know how to meet new people that's if it's not online.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't know what to do either. That's online is really everything. I mean, comedy, like it's not just dating. It's like the stuff we do, we've got to adjust to keep it online. So it's
yeah. And then even like so when you're talking about like when you meet with people, but since it's a pandemic, you're probably not meeting in person. So were you doing like Zoom dates, or like how are you talking to them, or just texting and just gave up?
For when it was like on, I don't think I've had Tinder downloaded on my phone throughout this entire pandemic. It's just been the Facebook widget, like within the Facebook the dating widget within the app. And really it's just been like video chat via Facebook Messenger, because like you can kind of click a button that sort of allows permission to actually add each other on Facebook.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So there's that. I've also been, I did some traveling and some study abroad. So I made some friends in like Singapore, and I reconnected with those friends late 2019. And so I've been kind of talking to friends of friends, and like, I wouldn't call it dating, but maybe some like mutual feelings were expressed, but they're like on the other side of the world. So it's just the best we can do are like these video chats. So yeah.
Would you do a long distance relationship. So I have kind of a problem where like everyone turns out to be like they have a secret family, and so it's like terrible, you know.
Mm.
So I kind of am like, oh, I don't want to try a new person that's far away. But would you try it? Like, are you into it?
I don't think I would start a relationship if it's starting off long distance.
Yeah.
But my first real and only relationship, like as an adult, in pharmacy school, I dated one of my classmates for the 3 out of the 4 years of pharmacy school, and like we got to know each other the first year. And she's from California. She's from like a San Diego suburb.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
and I went to Maryland. Like I've been born and raised in Maryland. I went to Maryland for pharmacy school, and long story short, like the long distance just couldn't work out. I mean,
Hmm.
we also had different goals. I mean, she actually works as a pharmacist for a big West Coast grocery store chain. I was like changing careers and figuring out what I wanted to do. But long distance is tough. I mean, I don't. Um, I think like I'd be willing to meet someone if I had the time and money to kind of do that traveling and like go on a date. But to really start a relationship, that would take a lot of thought, I think, and a lot of yeah.
Yeah, like there's this one guy, he's talking to me, he's in San Diego, which San Diego's not really that far. But
Mhm.
I'm still like it's far enough that I feel like it's far. And like he wants to do like Zoom dates and he might possibly come up to visit me, but I'm kind of like sounds like a lot of work. It just doesn't seem
Mhm.
like it's like I don't know. It doesn't sound that appealing if I only see him like once a month. And then if he's driving up here every week, and then like I guess I have more freedom that I could actually go down to visit him, but I'm a very lazy person as well. So I'm kind of like, I
Mhm.
just don't think I can make a long distance thing work, let alone if I had to fly. If I had to fly
Mhm.
somewhere, it's definitely not.
Right. Right. I think, yeah, and I think for me, as I'm hearing this, because like I'm definitely lazy as well, and I value my energy. Like, it takes energy to go, and it's also like nerve wracking. Like I think, there's this level of tension and just kind of suspense, and I've leaned into like really making as many friends as possible, even sort of in the dating scope. So like if I can establish some sort of a connection that has like a friendship sort of value. I'm happy to be friends and sort of let that evolve as it goes. Like I've really, and that's also helped me cope with just not having any success whatsoever on like the big like mainstream dating apps. It's just making as many friends as possible and letting stuff happen on its own. So
Brett in the comments is saying, I don't have time for a relationship, but I could definitely make time for a secret family. Like, yeah, I don't understand how people have the energy to
Mhm.
do that, right? And I kind of like what you're saying though about maybe it is just about meeting friends. Like, I don't know what your age is, but I'm 36, and I'm kind of at this point where I'm kind of like, I just want someone like nice to talk to at this
Right.
point. Like where you're like, oh, I can trust you, we can talk, and it's not drama-ish, you know. I feel
Exactly.
like that's kind of like enough for me for now. Like, I don't
Mhm.
know.
Yeah.
Um, but so with you, when you're talking about like the friends, is it kind of like, are they all just like online friends or you actually like hanging out with people or what are you doing?
With I mean, with this pandemic, it's been exclusively online. I did take a short trip to New York City for comedy. Well, yeah, it was twofold. I was helping a friend that I appreciate very dearly, and in case she's listening, and because she was in a time of need, and like she was transitioning between one job to another, and it was like from the East Coast to the West Coast, and one last hurrah on the East Coast, and so I traveled to New York City, and I was able to squeeze in an outdoor open mic on this trip,
Oh,
um, and we actually met. Ooh, we met on an app called Shaper, SHAPR, which is a networking app. It's not a dating app. It's like the swiping equivalent of LinkedIn.
whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, so Shaper normal people use it. Like maybe I should try that. So you meet friends is basically what you're saying with Shaper.
Yeah, like professional friends,
Okay.
and which can evolve into something else later. But
Yeah.
for me, it was like I volunteered for a lot of mental health nonprofits.
Oh,
This person is also like a big mental health advocate, and so the onset of that connection was very like professional networking, that sort of thing, and then over time we became friends, and that's an example of like something that started online, and we actually met up in person on a couple of occasions. This pandemic really like kind of pigeonholed me into like everything's really online for now. I mean, um, I haven't really traveled much, so.
but that's good because like I've been a little bit bad where sometimes I'll go out and then most of the times I stay in and I'm kind of like, I don't know, I'm getting like March is approaching and I'm kind of like, I don't know if I can stay in anymore. Like there was a period of time, like I think like the first week of February and I like was like, I'm gonna leave the house. And then I was like, no, this is bad. And I like stayed, returned back to online. But I'm kind of like that week that I started going out, like I'm kind of like, oh man, I want to do that again when the weather gets nice. Like I could just like I could already see myself in March starting to leave the house. And I feel like that's when
Okay.
I'll get coronavirus. So I'm just yeah, and then I was talking to my sister. My sister thinks that the pandemic is probably going to last until like the end of this year at least. And so it's kind of like, I don't know if I can stay in. And then everyone's doing these like underground things, but when they're underground, they're not really safe, So,
Mm-hmm.
but it's good that you're being good, but also it's cold on the East Coast, right? So you're more
Yeah.
motivated to stay inside.
Oh, absolutely. The snow, I despise the snow. I mean, I was born and raised here, but like I actually talked to this with like my therapist and doctors. Like, I need to move somewhere, like maybe San Diego, where it's like there's no winter.
Yeah.
Because I legitimately have like seasonal affective disorder, and I take a medication for it in the
Okay.
winter and fall and whatnot. And yeah, it's just for me, it's just this sluggishness, this super like lack of energy to the point where it gets in the way of just like the day to day and like work. So yeah, the weather I think is a big factor here. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, like going back a little bit when you're talking about dating as an Asian man, do you primarily only date other you're Indian, right?
Yeah.
Okay, do you primarily only date other Indians or do you try to date other races or like what do you
Right. So I guess working backwards, my last relationship, which was my only real relationship or only relationship as an adult, was with a Vietnamese woman.
Oh,
She's
okay.
my classmate in a pharmacy school. She was born and raised in like a San Diego suburb where I never visited her there, but she said there's a lot of like Vietnamese American folks wherever she's from. And I had this like relationship, this kind of AOL instant messenger relationship with like uh, a middle school going on to high school classmate, like between eighth and ninth grade. She was mixed, like part black, part white, part different, like South American. Um, Montgomery County, Maryland is very diverse. But I think what I will say is like I felt like I when I went to the University of Maryland for undergrad for college, I was very intimidated by like the Indian scene. I felt like I wasn't good enough. Maybe I wasn't like I just wasn't attractive enough uh, to date these very cool hip Indians. So I felt kind of pushed out from like the mainstream kind of Indian presence at Maryland. So yeah.
Do you still feel that way now? Yeah, or is that just or was it past tense or is it still present?
I think unfortunately it's something that kind of persisted and it can't really be undone. It's only a matter of like how I can move forward. So I do kind of embrace meeting different people from different backgrounds, but it's also just sort of I think that, where I went to school, I think the sort of mainstream kind of clique of cool Indians, they're probably coming from slightly wealthier households. Maybe they had older siblings or older cousins that sort of paved the way for them. I'm an only child, and my cousins are in India, so I have just like no frame of reference
Mm.
or mentors. And it had something that persisted, and it was a dynamic that prevented me from like that that I guess pushed me back from maybe like joining some of the cultural clubs, like the Indian ones. I joined like the multicultural like Asian clubs and like the all out diversity clubs and organizations, and that was great. But I felt like there was almost a somewhat of a common theme. Like some of the kids were there for the same reasons I was there, where it's like some of us felt pushed out by by our own kind of ethnic um, group, at least their mainstream presence on campus. So it kind of persisted to this day, but I'm like making the most of maybe like the connections I have and that sort of thing. So
It's kind of interesting because at my school, so I went to University of Kansas as an undergrad, and they had a an Asian sorority and Asian frat, and I never joined. But it's not. I guess I didn't leave there thinking it wasn't because I wasn't Asian enough. To me, I was kind of like, I thought they were just cliquish,
mhm.
and I just thought like I was like, oh, they're kind of just cliquish jerks, you know. But like, it's kind of interesting that like if they're cliquish there, that you took that as a problem with you and not with them.
Yeah, I mean, and the reason is because from my perspective, they were doing college right. At least I thought they were, or I think they were, because as far as I knew, they were getting good grades and they were partying.
Okay.
Whereas for me, it was like the opposite. I was getting like okay grades or like B's, but I was like working my butt off and like not going to parties. And the occasion that I did go to parties, I just didn't have a good time. I didn't have a really like loud kind of presence. So I felt like they were doing college right and they knew how to do college right. And I just couldn't get there. So
But this is interesting too, because it's like nothing about you, right? Because it's kind of like if they're just loud party people, they're just loud party people, and you're not a loud but that doesn't make it anything wrong with you, or you're less Indian, or whatever, like
mm.
I don't know, because I think about that too. Like whenever I meet really loud people, I just hate them. Like I'm actually pretty introverted, and so I prefer like one-on-one or like quieter settings, like a coffee shop or like a library or something. But like when there's like a bunch of people being loud, like I can't handle that. Like I like shows because it's like
Mm.
they're on stage being whatever, and then everyone else is quiet. Where there's kind
Right.
of like what do you call it? A order.
Structure. Okay. Yeah.
These people are being loud. Like I remember one time I was asked to do this panel, and when they were like prepping us, they're just like, we want you to like interject and all this other stuff. And I just like shut down. I was like, these people are too loud.
Yeah.
Couldn't handle it. Like I like very much like you talk now, you talk now.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting thing because it's people's personalities are different. And this is kind of like, some
Yeah.
people are a big reality show and other people are not, is how I look at
Right.
it. Yeah. But so like, but have you ever dated another Indian person?
I've not. I've maybe spent time, gotten lightly intimate, but no, I've not dated another Indian woman. So
Yeah. I'm actually kind of similar where I try to go on dates with Asian guys, and a lot of like the cool Asians, like they get snatched up early. Like I remember there was this one Asian guy, like I met him in a writing class, and then like, he was pursuing me, but then he ended up with like another ABG. Like that's what I classify myself as like a,
Mhm.
and so yeah, I was like, damn it, that other girl stole him from me. And then other Asian guys, or a lot of them go out with like white girls. So you're kind of like, oh, okay,
Mm.
they're gone too. So I
Yeah.
guess it doesn't matter. It's like whatever you end up with is really, I guess,
Right.
what matters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So what else, besides dating and besides your job, what else is new with you?
Ooh, I think that I'm trying to just kind of finesse my sleep habits and like my daily routine. It's the most cliche, I think, thing to say, but it's also something I'm not a morning person at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also like very not disciplined with getting to bed on time. I've like seen doctors and it takes me a while to fall asleep. So just kind of honing in on my daily routine. I'm really good with exercise. I could be better with diet because I'm really trying to value my energy. I mean, we're talking about like we're both lazy earlier, but I think that's a very like natural situation, and I want to like work my way out of that and have the energy like sustain. So
Yeah,
yeah.
like so well, I guess break down a little bit what you're saying. So like with the sleep thing, for instance, like what's going on with your sleep?
Ever since college, I've been going to bed somewhere between 2 and 4 a.m. Local time, the East Coast time. And that's actually not that late when you put it in West Coast time. It's like 11 p.m. So uh, and I don't know. I think it was just me moving from home to a dorm. But none of the other kids were having that much of a difficult time, or they didn't have that much of a pronounced effect. Where in grade school, I was getting to bed on time, somewhere between 10 p.m. and midnight, and I would get up. I don't know, what was it, like 6:30 a.m. Don't know how I did it for class. And then, but you know, when I got to college, I've been this like night owl. Like if it was up to me and my body and my mind, then I would be this like complete night owl. And I don't know why. Um, I have some like interesting theories. Like when I studied abroad in Singapore,
Mhm.
and on this really deep kind of like super spiritual, cool level, I felt like my clock was more in sync with the Singaporean clock. Maybe because like I'm like from that continent, uh, or I'm just making. I don't know. Maybe that's what I'm telling myself. But uh, yeah, just like this night owl. At least when I'm here home on the East Coast in Maryland. So
So do you never really get a consistent like 8 hours of sleep?
if I think one of the reasons I was in between jobs for so long is like I can stay asleep. Like it's just I'll be up at this very um like not favorable time, like noon or something. But you know, with a day job, I've got to be up by 9, and I'm pretty good at waking up. I'm like very disciplined at waking up. I think that for me, the most difficult thing is getting to bed and then falling asleep. So that's sort of my situation.
That's interesting. It was really funny. I'm supposed to write an article for Hustler about so there was a study done where it was basically like what sex positions help people fall asleep. And so I
Huh.
tried to contact all these sleep study places and like none of them would respond to me because nobody wants to, no respectful place ever wants to like answer
Mhm.
a porno journalist or whatever. So, but yeah, like I guess there's like a study about it where it's like different positions, and I guess like the stress levels of certain positions cause people to not be able to sleep. So
Oh, interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, apparently like doggy style helps people sleep the best, and
Mhm.
then people who do 69 have the worst sleep. Fun fact.
Oh, I think yeah, I can. You know what I think what it is because with 69 you're laying down, and if you're laying down, then you're kind of you're sort of mixing the context of like sleeping and doing the 69. And so if you have a more defined boundary, like behaviorally, like with the doggy style, then your mind and body can distinguish the two contexts more clearly. I think that's sort of what I'm thinking off the top of
Oh,
my head.
okay. I'm gonna send you an email, and you're gonna be my you're gonna be one of my sources. Because no, that's kind of an interesting thing about sleep too, where they tell you things like don't mix like your office and your bedroom and stuff.
Yeah.
Like don't have your computer at your bed, don't watch TV at your bed and all that stuff.
Mhm.
I do all that stuff. Like I mix it and like I don't know. It's like I don't know. It probably could be better to not do that. But one thing that I do to help me sleep, my room is the colors are very calming. I one time had this painting, I got it from like IKEA. It was like bright red. And like the stress of looking at it was like I couldn't put it in my house because it was almost too bold. And it was
Mm.
like hard to look at. And so I like took all that away. And now it's like only calming colors. And I think that's helped a lot.
Yeah, and you know, these little things, like my bedroom window is like completely black. I like covered it like so that no ambient light can get in. So like the environment is very big for me on that. And you know, with exercise as well, like I have to like really make sure that I don't exercise too late or else I'll feel kind of amped up. So yeah.
Mhm. I'm going to read some of the comments.
Okay.
So Brett is talking about your Singapore comment. He's saying Singapore is a great place for spiritual waking, but a terrible place to chew gum. Very true. Anthony is saying, LMAO, where did you get this info? I think he's probably talking about the sleep study. So the sleep study
Mhm.
was done by this mattress company in the UK. And I think they interviewed like over 1,000 people about what positions they had and how they like went to sleep. And like, I think there are studies that sex can help people sleep because it makes them relaxed and whatnot. But I do like your theory about the different positions where like one is separate and then I don't know. You'll have to explain it to me.
Well, I think if I were to say I think it boils down to whether you're laying down or not, and how close is your sleeping position when you're genuinely asleep to your 69ing or other sex position. So I think that's what it boils down to.
Yeah, because when you're doing 69, both people are doing equal amounts of work if it's supposed to be a true 69. I guess. I mean, I don't know.
Right.
Versus like I don't know, like I don't think there was anyone mentioning the missionary position. I don't know if the missionary position helped people sleep, but I guess in that theory, the woman wouldn't be able to sleep, but the man would.
Yeah. I mean, there's always I think there's always going to be like how do you say, like one person is going to have different experiences to the next, but I think with like even with the 69ing and missionary, even if you're exerting a lot of work, you're still in that position of that is pretty close to, you know, like legit like being asleep, like laying down.
Okay.
And for me, because there aren't too many things I would like what that I would be doing where I'm just laying down, other than sleeping. Maybe like relaxing or passively watching TV. But I try to avoid doing that because like I think, you know, I just want to be more productive with my time. But
Okay.
yeah, I think for me it's like a positional thing. So
What do you think about like sleeping next to a person? Like some people, for instance, okay, so one time I dated this guy and we dated for like several weeks, probably about 2 months. And then at the 2 months mark, I finally slept with him. And then the sex was terrible. And then he reveals, he's like, I can't have people sleep next to me because he had PTSD. He was a former military guy.
mm,
And in my head, I was like, man, I invested so
mm,
much time to get to this point. But it like really bothered me because for me, it's very important for the person to sleep next to you, kind of thing. What are your thoughts on that? Would you be okay if the person wanted a separate bedroom or like, what are your thoughts?
yeah, I think that I mean the with the PTSD, that's tough. I mean, because you could be in like a dream and just not realize that, you know, your partner is next to you until like 3 seconds after the fact where you're like screaming and freaking out. So I
Yeah,
mean that's tough.
kind of
I
to him. Yeah, because like when he told me he had PTSD, and then I made a joke, and so this is all on me how terrible I was because I was like, "Oh, are you going to hit me in my sleep if I stay here?" And he got really upset. Like he
mm,
couldn't look at me because I made a joke about his PTSD, and I was like, "Yeah, it wasn't appropriate," but like I was trying to like ease the situation.
right.
I had no clue that this guy had this many problems, but I did know he was a military guy. So I guess I should have just like guessed,
Okay.
but like I was like, oh, so I was very rude on that end. But yeah, no,
Right.
but you're right though. It's that if he would have allowed me to sleep next to him, it maybe would have been scarier than he's even like presenting
Mhm.
to me. So yeah.
I think for me, like I'm a very like cordial person. Like if it's a matter of sleeping next to someone for like in my last relationship, my at the time girlfriend and I would share the same bed and sleep, and we didn't have like too many issues. I mean, I would turn and toss here and there, and maybe she would too, but nothing, nothing too bothersome. But I think that if it's like a short time frame, then I would just be cordial enough to like not like complain. But I can see how like if on a long term basis, if someone with PTSD sort of had to like be very, I don't know, strict or absolute with like not sleeping next to someone. I mean, yeah, just you could be caught up in a nightmare. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
so
tough,
it's kind of just not a good match, but it sucked because I invested so much time to find that out. Like that's the
Mm,
hard part about when you date someone, right? It's like we all have problems. And it's like thing, if you tell people too early, you might scare them off when they might have actually stayed around if you had waited a certain
mm,
time. But then there's another thing where it's like you don't also want to waste their time either. And they spend so much time and then you drop a bomb that would have been a deal breaker. It should have been like found out way earlier. Um,
mm.
reading some of the comments, Brett is saying, you have PTSD. What a coincidence. I happen to have an STD. How did Brett know that I said that? Like, how did he know? No, but I mean, yeah, I was really though upset because of how much time I spent with this guy
Mm.
though, because I was a little bit like, I don't know, should he have told me earlier?
Right. Yeah.
I feel like he should have,
Yeah.
but yeah, but it is weird when people tell you almost too much on it. Like, for instance, on an app, I both hate and like it when they tell me too much. Like, some
Mm.
guys would be like, I have a kid, the kid lives with me. Are you cool with that? And like, I actually find that fine. I don't mind. But
Mm.
sometimes, like, it takes the romance out when they put the too much serious early. But then I'm also
Right.
like, thank you for telling me so that we don't meet up. But there is no romance, right? It's like,
Right.
it becomes too like clinical. So I don't
Yeah.
know the moment when you tell people your drama.
Yeah. No, that's like the balancing act, I think. Because if I had PTSD and I was very clinical about it, and then I would plan every like if I was traveling anywhere outside of my house, I'd be very rigid about it, and then like that is terrible for dating. There's no chemistry. There's no like suspense. There's no
Yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, I get why he did it, but it's kind of like, man, I wasted a lot of time with
Mm.
this
Yeah.
guy.
No. Yeah. I
Yeah,
hear you.
but yeah, it's that weird thing. When do you tell people you're like, for instance, like I tell people on my app that I write for Hustler because some people who might be very conservative would actually balk at that, And it's like,
Hmm.
granted, I have enough other side gigs and stuff that you could tell them like, oh, she's a teacher at Flappers. You don't have to say like the other stuff that I do. But then if you Google me, you find that out. So it's like, I'd rather put all the stuff that some people might view as negative and I put it out there first. But like one
Mm.
thing that I've encountered, and I don't know if you've encountered this because as comedians, we're using our real names, or at least I think you're using
I
your.
am. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And they Google me and like it kind of freaks me out a little bit because like all they have to look up is Teresa and comedian Los Angeles and like it pops up. And like sometimes they'll contact me and they'll be like, I watched your set or I read your articles or whatever. And I'm kind of like, I can't research you. I don't like that you researched me. I just feel like it's like not real when we meet then because they start
Mhm.
catering themselves to me, but in a false way.
Yeah. And I feel like there's always that awkward tension, even when that happens in like a friend group where someone tells me that they looked me up and they saw maybe a set or a clip or an article. Uh, there's always a level of awkwardness that is just unique to someone unveiling that in
Right.
almost any context. So I totally hear you on that. Yeah.
Yeah, and like how do you deal with it? Because it's like it's true where they can look up you up, but not the other way around, right? It's like I can't go and Google them and like look up all their business and say something.
Right.
But I guess they're trying to be flattering, I guess. I think that's
Mm.
where it's coming from. But I feel
Yeah.
a little bit like did you see Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, where like that guy who like watched all her memories and then her memory got wiped, and he basically tried to like manipulate her with her old memories?
Whoa.
Do you remember
I,
that movie?
I haven't, no, but that sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's a really great movie, but sometimes I think about that too when I'm like, like one time, for instance, I went on a date with this. It was a cop. So of course the cop has got to research, I guess, me before we meet. But like I remember I had a blog, and in my blog, I kept making all these jokes about how much I love to eat pie. And he was not slick at all. Where I'm like, you're making a terrible cop. Like, I'm surprised you actually are a cop, because he was like, oh man, I really love to eat pie. Where it was like so hokey, and like how he like snuck it in there. And I was like, okay, this is not gonna work out.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's one of those things that I never do. I never, like, I try to avoid being in that situation where I've told someone that I Googled you real quick and I saw this. Like because I know that that's always going to be awkward. I've never really had a lot of good that comes out of saying
Do
that.
you Google before you go on a date? I want to ask you about that. Yeah.
I don't think I have, just because I think the very few women that I've dated, just there would never be anything that would prompt me to Google them. And for like stand up, I haven't been doing stand up for that long. And I've only taken my social media seriously in the past couple years. So it hasn't really spilled into sort of my dating life too much, the Googling thing. So
I was reading this article. Do you know what Hillsong is? Is that big mega church?
I do not know.
Okay, so there's a big mega church called Hillsong, and it has like celebrities like Justin Bieber and stuff who go. And like one of the big pastors, I think the guy even like baptized Justin Bieber. Like that's how like celebrity-ish he is. He got fired from Hillsong because he was having an affair, and he was also like sleeping with a bunch of volunteers and stuff. So kind of a shady guy, because especially because he's trying to pretend, listen to me, I'm full of Christ's love, and then he's doing like shady stuff in the back. And then one of his mistresses actually came out, and she's like, oh, I met him at a park, and he wouldn't tell me his last name, and he like lied about who he was. And she just like took his number and then like paid for a private investigation report. You can pay like $25 with the internet, and they'll like dig up a report for you. So she found out who he was. And then after she found out who he was, figured out he was married and stuff, then she's like, okay, now I'm gonna have the affair. And I'm like, you I was like, what story?
Huh.
I get it if like maybe you got tricked to start the affair, but then like she learned who he was, and then she started it, and then she tries to out him as if he's such a bad guy. But I'm a little bit like, you don't sound like a good one here.
Yeah, that's very like wow, that's intense. That means like she had a lot of experience with that situation and
like
reports.
She paid like for a professional report, where I'm like, if it's to the point where you feel like you have to pay for a professional report, maybe it's a bad deal. But then it's like, I guess she was still happy because she had an affair with like this super famous like pastor, I guess. But like what I just thought that was like such a strange story.
Yeah.
But it is kind of interesting though about the internet, where like people could really catfish. Like I think at this point I can't catfish. I would kind of secretly love, like for instance, I would like to lie about my age, and maybe like that would expand like my matches maybe. But I feel like if they just Google me, they'll find out and they'll know I'm a liar, and it just kind of like starts things on a bad foot. So I just don't do it.
Yeah, I've never catfished, but I think the only time I've catfished was when like MySpace and like I was 12-ish when MySpace came out, and then Facebook. I think there were like age restrictions, and then I would like come up with a goofy name. But other than that, I say that because I wonder if that's maybe where catfishing came from, where if you were raised on like the onset of social media. But yeah, no, I've never been in that.
Catfish is a real thing. Like, so this happened. So I'm from a small town in Kansas, and like, so when the internet first came out, it was like, people had like, there was no real ways. It was really easy to catfish back then because you couldn't find as much stuff about people. And like, I remember there's this guy I went to school with, and someone just randomly like wrote him online, and then she had like sexy pictures or something. And like there was no technology back in the day to like prove that who she was or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And so she basically was like being very, very sexual with him and being like, hey, I live in the town over and I live in an apartment. Come over, let's fool around or whatever. And he's like, yeah, yeah. And then she's also like, bring a friend. And then he and his friend are like, yeah, yeah. They're like at like community college age, so like maybe 19 or something.
Mm.
They go to this town to meet this girl, a guy, an old man opens the door and the old man is like, hey, I'm her neighbor. I'm just here to make sure that you guys are who you say you are and you're not going to hurt her. And they're like, oh, okay, I guess that makes sense. And they're like, I need to verify that you guys don't have STDs. Can you, take off your pants and let me look at your genitals? And one of the guys was like, no, hell no. And then one of them was like, okay, he was stupid. And so he let this like old man like feel him up. And
Mm.
he was like, okay, you're clean, but she's kind of busy right now. So come back another day. And like they ended up leaving. And I was kind of like, that was like what people were catfishing for. And when they're like, oh, it's gonna be an old man or something like that. But like
Mm.
it really actually happened. But then, they didn't call the cops because I think he felt too much shame that he got tricked. Because this was like
Oh,
decades ago.
right.
Yeah, but it's just like such a weird thing what people can do with it.
Hmm.
Rasolorio is saying, was he Catholic? Like a priest. No, it was just some random old man in an apartment. Yeah, but now it's different because now it's like people are still trying to catfish now. But it's so funny because there's this guy, I'm Facebook friends with him, and he'll always post screenshots of the women trying to catfish him. But like these people take like celebrity photos and use them. And I'm kind of like, shouldn't you pick just like a random pretty girl, but who's not famous? Because if you use a celebrity,
Yeah.
of course you're going to know it's fake.
Right. Have you heard the term? I think it's like either kitten fishing or kitty fishing, where it's like where you use like filters and too much editing, and it's not catfishing, but like it's like pushing like the boundary of there's so much of a discrepancy between how much you edited the photos and
But
like
is
I don't
it?
know.
I thought it was only a catfish if you're like really faking your identity, because kind of lying about your looks is a little different, right? Or
Yeah. No, yeah, it's just no,
okay.
they are different, but I think like some writer tried to like name it like kitten fishing or kitty fishing to like make it like similar but different type of thing.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Because people definitely lie about that. Like I went on, I guess, uh, online dates in the past, and I would definitely be like, you don't look like what you say, but like I could still tell it was their picture, just maybe old or something
Mm,
like that. But I also think too is that we can kind of tell when a photo has been really photoshopped. I would
yeah.
think, like, I don't know, because like whenever you see those filters with like dog ears and stuff, it's like this person's not going to be hot when you meet them in real life.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. Have you ever had it where somebody had not a fake picture, but like they had heavily altered, or the picture was old or misrepresented themselves?
uh, no, I haven't experienced that. Well, it's like if I get a Tinder match that is like clearly suspicious, then like I just like delete that right away. It's like not an issue.
Oh,
But in terms of actual um, meetups and things of that sort, I mean, I have a quick story that's not related to dating, but
no.
in pharmacy school, we did this like volunteer trip to Jamaica, and the lady she was legit. But the lady that was like picking us up to like guide us to where we were staying, the picture she used was when she was like, I don't know, in her mid-20s, and she was clearly like in her 50s or 60s. So like we generally couldn't find who we were supposed to meet. So that was an issue. So uh,
There's a comedian, and I don't want to say his name, but it's like he's probably, I can't guess people's ages, but at least over 60s. But he uses a photo where it's like he's 40, where I'm a little bit like, you need to get a new headshot.
yeah, I feel like I actually have that issue with one of my headshots, my LinkedIn headshot. It's like I'm in a suit and tie. But a lot of my jobs these days like don't really require full on suit and tie.
Mhm.
So and I was 22 or 23 in that picture. I'm 28 now. I've got like bags under my eyes and like so yeah, I feel a little bit hypocritical, but like yeah, like it sometimes is a matter of just like reminding myself like I've got to update that headshot. I don't look as young anymore.
Do you really look though drastically different?
I don't, but a comedian did roast me once like, about the difference. I think my beard was a little bit longer, and
Oh,
I
okay.
was a
So
little bit upset, but he had a point. So
was it a good joke? You're like, this joke sucks.
it wasn't even a joke. He just kind of roasted me like right away. Like
Yeah,
so.
I've done a few shows where they'll roast me, and the thing that they always pick on me for is my Instagram. They're always like, "Oh, all you post is thirst traps." And at this point, I'm like, I'm only posting pictures of my face. Like, if you're turned on by my face, that's not my fucking fault, you know. I'm just
Yeah.
whatever, you know. But if like people do a deep dive, I would probably say like months and months and months ago, I probably have posted like underwear pictures. But it's like they have to do a fucking deep dive. They act like
Mm,
I'm just like constantly just posting me still. I'm just like whatever.
right.
But I guess if that's the worst thing people can roast about is our old pictures, then I think we're like nice people.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, yeah.
Because like yesterday on the show, I had Paul Moonjean,
Mhm.
and I was just kind of thinking, I was like, it's an interesting thing where we hear all these stories about jerks and whatnot, but there are genuinely nice people who do entertainment. It doesn't have to be jerk town, and I
Mhm.
think that's what's kind of cool about like, have you encountered that many jerks, or do you actually think the norm is nicer?
Uh, hmm. And are we still talking about like
Not dating, just like comedy or
yeah.
just, yeah, like in entertainment in general. For instance, I moved out to LA, and my original story is I was pursuing screenwriting. So I was trying to do like Hollywood stuff. And I thought Hollywood was one of the grossest industries that I've ever felt like I was in.
Mm,
And then it's so funny because, I've been at Hustler for 6 years now. I thought Hustler, even though maybe the content is racy, but the
mhm.
actual like environment is so professional that like people will be shocked that when I worked at like mainstream Hollywood stuff, I thought that was maybe the packaging of what they put out was family friendly, but the
Right.
actual work environment was scary. And so when I entered the comedy world, I was already kind of prepared. And like, so when
Yeah.
people try to get dirty with me, I was like, no, thank you.
And I think I've had a similar experience with the preparation, as you said.
Yeah.
For me, I started comedy only after I graduated pharmacy school and worked a year's worth of that one day job. And the harshness and sort of the jerks were sort of the corporate leaders and the professors that were very strict, and like we had a very strict dress code. And I wasn't vibing with any of it.
Yeah.
But that toughness and that discomfort like did prepare me for kind of the jerks I may encounter in stand up or in other places. And the other thing I want to say is that where I went to pharmacy school in Maryland, I would say a solid 40% of our class was from California because and the reason was because apparently the in-state tuition for most of the pharmacy schools in California was more expensive for whatever reason than Maryland's out-of-state tuition. So it like created this trend. Well, yeah, I don't know. And the thing I noticed right away is right off the bat, like these Californians, like from the West Coast, are so much nicer and more polite and kind than any of the East Coast people I've ever met in my entire life. Like I feel like we are so cynical, jaded. I don't know if it's like a DC and like NYC thing, like, but you all just seem so much happier in general. So
It's funny when I first we're hitting the 4 o'clock block. Do you have a few minutes after, or do you need to go at 4?
I have a few minutes.
Okay, so we'll finish. Okay, so we'll keep going. I think what happened is when I first moved out to LA and when I was from the Midwest, and like I was like too obsessed with stupid stuff like fame and all that stuff. I was kind of a jerk. And I think that there's still people like that who exist in LA. Like when their values are off. But I
Right.
think once people though really start to appreciate how wonderful California is when you don't give a shit about fame and money and you're just like, oh, the weather is nice or the food is
Mhm.
nice. And then
Yeah.
like then you're just kind of like, oh, there's so much here that you can appreciate if you let go of the stupid stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, but there, I think though that there are still a lot of toxic people, but I think it's almost like the longer you've been in LA, I think those people tend to be nicer because they may hopefully have given up the idea that they're going to be famous. I think it's like when you just
Oh.
accept this is your life. Like for instance, like when I moved to LA, I really was like, I want to be like this famous screenwriter. And then I was kind of like, I'm going to show people because I experienced a lot of like racism and stuff growing up. And I was like, I'm going to show people. Um, and so I really had like something to prove. And so when I wasn't getting it, I was like really like upset and all that stuff. When I let all that go and I was kind of like, okay, I'm just going to write like porno articles and like go
Mhm.
eat. Like,
Yeah.
like then my life became so simple.
Yeah.
I became a way nicer person where I just kind of
Mhm.
accepted like this is my life. Like, you
Right.
know, that's fine. Like I've accepted that, so
Yeah, definitely. And I think that that would be sort of the foundation that that I would like to have because yeah, I really like sunny weather and good food. So yeah.
you want to, so it kind of sounded like you wanted to move to California eventually. Does that seem like something on the horizon or like what are your plans?
Yeah, it's I haven't gotten a chance to visit any part of SoCal, but I have family that live in like Palo Alto, like Northern California.
Oh,
And I noticed like the weather at any given time of the year, it just I like it better. It does get cold up there, but it's like, not as bad. So I feel like even that would be an improvement. And I mean, the only slight kind of uh, frustration is like, I really like stand up and New York City is pretty nearby, but I think
oh,
long term thinking, like I do better in like warmer weather year round. So yeah.
yeah. And you know what's kind of cool is because of the pandemic, you've like really kind of networked with some Californians. So it's like if you ever want to make the leap, you're not completely alone, which is
Right.
good. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you for doing the show. Where can people find you?
Yes, you can find me on YouTube. So youtube.com/Mudit Verma. That's my first and last name. And I'm on all social medias at I like to mood it with the number 2. I like to mood it. Yeah.
I love your joke about that too. And
Thank
then
you.
before you go, Anthony has one comment. He's saying people on the West Coast are nice until they get behind the wheel, which is also very true. So, Anthony, yes, 100% agree with you. As long as you don't drive, California
Mhm.
is wonderful. Okay.
Gotcha.
And so, this conversation is going to be unlisted after this. So, but if anybody who wants to rewatch old archived videos, you can go to patreon.com/Teresa Lo Writer. Otherwise, the live stream is every Monday through Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific. All right. Bye.